December 1944. The frozen forests of Belgium had turned into a battlefield covered in snow and silence. Temperatures had dropped below freezing, and visibility was poor. In the middle of this brutal winter, American soldiers from the 101st Airborne Division found themselves surrounded by German forces during what would become known as the Battle of the Bulge. German commanders believed this would be a quick victory. Their forces had more men, more tanks, and more artillery. Their objective was simple: break through Allied lines and force a surrender. The small Belgian town of Bastogne became a critical target because of its strategic road network. Whoever controlled Bastogne controlled the movement of the war in that sector. The American soldiers holding the town were not fully prepared for a siege. Many had arrived quickly and without proper winter gear. Some lacked heavy coats, others had limited ammunition. Food supplies were tight, medical supplies were even tighter. Yet they stayed. Snow fell constantly. Wounded soldiers were treated in basements and makeshift aid stations. Medics worked without enough morphine. Blankets were shared. Ammunition was counted carefully. Every bullet mattered. German forces launched repeated attacks. Artillery shells exploded in the surrounding forests. Tanks pushed toward defensive positions. American soldiers dug foxholes into the frozen ground, sometimes using bayonets because the earth was too hard for shovels. Despite these conditions, something stronger than equipment held the line. It was trust. Officers did not ask their men to do anything they would not do themselves. Non-commissioned officers moved from position to position, checking on their soldiers. Men shared cigarettes. They shared stories about home. They shared hope. At one point, German commanders sent a message demanding the American surrender. The response from American General Anthony McAuliffe became legendary. Nuts. That was the entire reply. It was a slang expression, basically meaning no chance. This single word would become one of the most famous acts of defiance in American military history. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was simple, calm, certain. The message to the soldiers was clear. They were staying. The siege continued. Conditions became worse. Casualties increased. Ammunition continued running low. Fog prevented air support from reaching them. For several days, they stood alone. Then something changed. The weather cleared. American aircraft finally broke through the skies above Bastogne. Planes dropped desperately needed supplies, ammunition, food, medical kits, and winter gear. For the first time in days, the surrounded soldiers knew they had not been forgotten. Soon after, General George Patton's Third Army began fighting its way toward Bastogne to break the encirclement. It would not be easy. German resistance remained strong, but the trapped soldiers had already done the most important thing. They had held. When relief forces finally reached Bastogne, they did not find a defeated force. They found exhausted soldiers who had refused to give up their ground. Many of these men would never call themselves heroes. They would later return home, start families, build careers, and live quiet lives. Like many veterans, they often spoke more about the men they served with than about the enemy they fought, because that is what they remembered most. Not the explosions, not the fear, but the brotherhood. Historians would later agree that holding Bastogne played a critical role in stopping Germany's final major offensive on the Western Front. But for the men who were there, the meaning was simpler. They had done their job. They had protected each other. They had not left anyone behind. Today, the story of Bastogne remains a reminder that courage is not always loud. Sometimes courage is staying in place when everything tells you to run. Sometimes it is sharing your last blanket. Sometimes it is standing your post in the freezing dark so the man next to you can sleep. The men of Bastogne did not fight for glory. They fought for each other.
And in doing so, they showed the kind of quiet strength that continues to define what it means to serve. Their battle was fought in the snow, their legacy was written in character, and their story still reminds us that ordinary people are capable of extraordinary courage when it matters most.